You didn't know the calling had already begun. You were merely walking through the noise of the world, the mess of routine, the fog of forgetting. But within you, something silent had started to call. Not a voice, not a word. An emptiness stretched taut like a string between the layers of reality. You stand on scorched ground, where Eden once whispered in green. Here, silence reigns, ancient as the breath of the desert itself. Before you lies sand, etched by the wind like sacred script left by gods. The archaeologists call this place a forgotten dig, but you know better. It is an altar. Here they do not excavate dirt, they unearth truth. Scholars' fingers brush the fragments of clay as if feeling the pulse of a dead age. Upon the tablets are not just symbols, but traces of the fall, charred, scratched, yet alive. They were buried beneath the weight of centuries, like the memory of exile itself. And now they speak again. You feel a tremor crawling into your fingers, as if you too have touched the forbidden. This is no ordinary text. This is a challenge. A manuscript abandoned by centuries now emerges into the light, the lost book. A truth long averted, because it does not fit a world built on fear of knowing. Voices of the past whisper from the sand. They lied to you. They showed you only half. The story you were told is a curtain. Behind it, fire. Your eyes follow the lines. The words are unlike anything spoken in temples. There are no moral decrees here, no sacred commands. There is pain, there is fear. There is flesh separated from light, naked souls cast beyond divine breath. And in that is truth, uncomfortable, ancient, real, the book of Adam and Eve, but not the one that remained in canon, another, crossed out, rejected, entombed. It speaks not of sin, but of what came after, of the sorrow of the banished, the rupture between worlds, the cost of freedom. These pages do not judge, they remember. You feel the words sliding under your skin. They do not forgive, they awaken. You ask yourself, why was this book lost? And inside you, the answer begins to bloom. Because it sees through you. You were not ready, but now you must go. Because perhaps this is your story too, one that began long before your birth. And perhaps you are the one who dares to read it to the end. You hold the scroll in your hands, but it is more than just text. It is the breath of centuries, wrapped in dust and shadow. Its lines smell of ancient palms whose rustling has long been silenced. Yet the echo of those sounds stirs within you, like a memory you were never meant to have, yet have always carried. This manuscript did not emerge suddenly. It wasn't written by a lone man in a silent cell. It is the child of collective memory, the whisper of flames beside nighttime fires, the fear of lightning, the hope born in desert winds. Its first flesh was Arabic, spoken in Egypt, but its blood is older. And when its words flowed into Latin letters, they did not lose their fire. They merely changed garments to slip past the censors. Scholars say it was recorded in the 1st century. But you feel it. It lived long before ink. It was passed from mouth to mouth like a spell, like a secret only the broken could understand. It did not belong to religion nor bow to law. It belonged to pain, and pain knows no time. Through translations, interpretations, revisions, and redactions, it survived like thirst survives even in scorched earth. They tried to forget it, labeled it apocryphal, pseudo-history, fiction. But does fiction make your heart tremble? Can a lie awaken shame you didn't know was yours? You read the lines translated from Latin, straining to grasp meaning beneath centuries of dust. Yet the text breathes. It is not dead. With every word, you hear a whisper. I was never written, I was spoken. I am the voice of the exiled, the voice denied a place in the temple, yet I am a piece of truth. This book did not arrive as religious revelation. It arrived as pain in the chest, as a crack in doctrine, as thunder rolling through a quiet hall. And you realized what they call a lie is often just truth spoken too soon. You recall names whispered in old commentaries: Paul, Irenaeus, Cyprian. Great thinkers alluded to these themes as if they heard them in dreams. But none dared place this book within the canon. Why? Because it does not flatter, because it does not teach submission. It leads you through pain, not around it. You can no longer turn away. You have already looked inside. This text is a mirror, revealing what you've long avoided, your own hunger for knowing. Not academic, not rational knowing, but the kind that burns. Now you know. This book was not lost. It was hidden. Since childhood they taught you. Truth is what has been permitted. What is approved, sealed, sanctified by the voices of the powerful. Everything else, heresy, error, threat. But who decides what must be forgotten? Who brands with unworthy the pages written in the tears of the exiled? You return to the scroll again. Its words burn, but not your skin, your soul. This book speaks differently. It does not teach obedience. It does not plead for humility. It does not promise salvation in exchange for submission. It looks straight into you and asks, are you ready to remember that you have fallen? The book of Adam and Eve was not simply left out, it was rejected, as if the air inside it were poisonous. But its poison is not a lie. It is truth stripped of ornaments, truth unafraid, unadorned, unfiltered. It does not comfort, it reflects. You realize it was cast aside, not because it deceives, but because it reveals. It does not fit neatly into a system built to soothe. This book does not soothe, it disturbs. It reminds you that the path to light leads through dirt, flesh, error, and fear, through yourself. The church fathers gathered in solemn chambers, chose what would remain in the Bible, and what would not. Their motives were not always pure. Sometimes fear, sometimes convenience, sometimes power. And before them lay a book where God was not only creator, but silence, where man was not just a disciple, but an exile wandering the shadows of forgetting. This version was too human. You understand now, the canon is not truth, it is consensus, a decision about which pain to allow and which to bury. And the book of Adam and Eve was cast out because it reminded them that Eden is not a place. It is a loss, a longing, a trace you carry inside. You hear a voice in your head. Truth does not need a stamp, it needs a witness. And you are the witness. You read the lines erased from memory as if reclaiming a part of your soul. You are not seeking faith. You are seeking authenticity. And this book is real, not perfect, but alive. You feel the world you once trusted begin to crack, not the pages, but your perception itself. And that is good, because only what is broken can be made whole again. Now you know the truth was not in what remained, it was in what was thrown away. You think you know what loss feels like. You've recalled it when dreams died, when people left, when meanings dissolved. But that was only an echo, a faint murmur, a shadow of true loss, the kind they lived. The first exiles, not in a dream, not in metaphor, but with body, with breath, with bare feet, touching hostile earth. Adam and Eve did not simply leave the garden, they were torn from it, cast out like fruit plucked before ripeness, not by steps, but by soul. Eden was not merely behind them, it was erased from within them. When they looked back, they saw no gates, they saw a void. You see them standing at the edge of light and darkness. Behind them, a silent garden breathing with the presence of the Creator. Before them, emptiness. Not desert, but thick, weighty darkness that eyes cannot pierce. They didn't know how to breathe. The air that once caressed, now cut. The ground that once flowered, now pierced their feet. The light that once warmed, now blinded. Everything had become too much, too sharp, too heavy, too alien. And for the first time, pain. Not symbol, not metaphor, but real dull, gnawing pain. The body, once untouched in Eden, became a vessel of suffering, They trembled, not from cold, but from shock, from contact with a reality no one had prepared them for. You see them collapse to the earth, not in prayer, but in helplessness, their fingers clawing at the clay, seeking something familiar. But everything is foreign, even their own skin, even breath, even each other's gaze. They are no longer divine. They are exposed, and that knowing burns fiercer than fire. You hear a voice, not meant for them, but for you. This is where humanity begins, not from glory, but from fracture. From a wound through which the thirst will grow, not for pleasure, but for return. And you suddenly understand their exile was not punishment, it was birth. Pain was not vengeance, it was unveiling. Through it, you were born. Through it, you will remember. But first, you must live. Feel every stone beneath your feet. Learn that the sun can burn, not just warm. Realize that tears are not weakness, but prayers turned inward. Adam and Eve did not speak. They remained silent, for words were too fragile to carry the weight of the world they had entered. Their bodies lived, but their souls had shattered, and they would have to piece themselves back together, without instructions, without forgiveness, without maps. You see them in yourself, because you too know that moment when the old world ends and the new has not yet begun, when the ground trembles and there is nowhere to fall but into yourself. This is your Eden, and your exile, and your first pain. They did not choose this place, it chose them. The cave did not greet them as a refuge, it stood as a sentence, a stone mouth of the earth into which two exiles stepped, never to emerge unchanged. There were no doors, no light, no answers, only silence, swallowing their groans, and walls, deaf to all prayers. You follow them inward. With each step into the cave, you descend into yourself, because the cave of treasures is not merely a place on earth. It is an inner chamber where everything you've lost comes alive, not to comfort, but to confront. There are no mirrors here, but everything you fear to see stares back at you. Adam turns his gaze. The rocks, the narrowness, the dark. It all feels like a mockery of the garden from which they were cast. He remembers touching soft leaves, drinking from springs without knowing thirst. And now his hand meets stone. The water is bitter, the breath is strained. He feels his body, once formed of light, now heavy with matter. He is no longer angel, he is human. Eve remains silent, but her silence is not submission. She hears something within, a call, as if in the depths of this cave there is not darkness but fire, as though the heart of the world beats within the stone. She doesn't understand, but she knows this is not an ending, but the beginning of another path. You hear a whisper in the dark. Here is your darkness, not to break you, but to purify. Not to punish, but to make you see. The first nights were long, starless, sleepless. Adam tossed in unrest. Eve prayed wordlessly. Tears fell onto stone and did not vanish. They did not soak in. They remained drops of memory. The cave became a chronicle of pain, a chronicle of becoming. They began to realize the light of Eden was outside, but within them something still glowed, a spark, barely visible, fragile, yet alive. A flame needing no soil, only breath and presence. They sat in the darkness, and for the first time they began to see themselves, each other, what was lost, and what could never be taken away. You understand now, the cave of treasures is not punishment. It is a womb, not of stone, but of soul. Here a human is reborn, through shame, through fear, through pain that becomes a prayer. Here you learn not to ask, but to listen, not to flee, but to stay, not to survive, but to be. The treasures whispered of in legend are not gold, they are memory. The reclaimed sight of what was not lost outwardly, but inwardly. The ability to hold pain without becoming it, the strength to remain lit within the dark. You sit at the threshold of your own cave, and you know, Before you can step forward, you must hear what you've long silenced within, and then the path will continue. When you step into the darkness, you think you're alone. But darkness is not emptiness. It is a mirror. It waits until your fears reveal the one who has always been there, not an outside enemy, but the silent companion beside you all along. Satan does not shout. He does not force. He whispers. He does not say, "Sin." He says, "Don't you deserve more?" He does not demand. He offers. And every one of his gifts is not a weapon, but a reflection of your own longing. You see him approach the cave, not as a monster, but as a woman, as light, as comfort, because his power is not in terror, but in beauty, you want to believe. Adam and Eve step beyond the cave's mouth, worn, wounded, tired of silence and pain, and there, a river, water clear as glass. And out of it emerge beings, tall, radiant, like dawn. They smile, not threatening. They are gentle. Their hair glows like sunlight. Their skin glistens like ripe fruit. Their voices sing like music you forgot you once loved. You hear one speak, "Are you not children of light? Why suffer like the fallen? Does the Creator desire your pain? We live in joy. You can too." It sounds right. It sounds merciful. But deep in your chest, a tremble, not of fear, but of recognition. You know this is a lie, wrapped in truth. You know Satan does not steal, he imitates. He makes it just a little brighter, just a little gentler, just a little easier, so you'll choose not out of wickedness, but to escape suffering. Adam hesitates. He sees how they live without pain, with children and laughter and music, and he asks the question echoing in you, why can't we have that? Eve tightens her grip on his hand. She senses that beauty is not always divine. Sometimes it is from the one who wants you to abandon your path and choose comfort. You understand, this is temptation, not lust. But the wish to forget who you are, to become someone it is easier to be, someone for whom life hurts less. Temptation is not falling, it is fatigue, the voice that says, "Haven't you earned peace?" But peace can cost your soul. You watch Adam turn away. His body trembles, his lips press shut, refusing the words. He steps back, toward the cave, toward pain, toward night, but also toward himself. Satan leaves, not cursing, not threatening. He smiles, because he knows he'll return and try again, because you are human, and humans are always drawn to illusion. You understand, true evil is not in darkness. It's in the light that pretends, and your awakening begins, not with victory, but with discernment. True union is not born of desire. It is born of survival, of pain endured side by side, of silence that became shared prayer. You think love is a reward, but in truth, it is a path walked by two, not to escape suffering, but to endure it together. 7 months and 13 days had passed since they left Eden. Each day, a wound. Each night, a trial. And yet within these trials, amid hunger, grief, and fear, between the silence of the Creator and the whispers of Satan, something arose between them that even angels did not foresee. A bond not built on attraction, but on recognition. You are like me. You, too, are exiled. You are my pain, my strength, my reflection. They did not speak of love. They fed each other when fatigue nearly killed them. They held each other when the body refused to move. Their union was not passion, it was a vow. I will not leave you, even though we have lost everything. You see Adam rise to the hill. He asks for nothing, no blessings, no signs. He simply stands, just as he did at Eden's border, but now with a different heart. In him, silence, but not the silence of fear, the silence after the storm, and the Creator sees it. The angels descend, not with trumpets or flame, but with quiet light. They bring no reward, they bring a sign. Now you are worthy to be together, not by blood, not by body, but by spirit. They offer gold as a symbol of gift, frankincense as the scent of path. But above all, they grant 40 days. You hear 40 days of silence, 40 nights of cleansing, not to earn the union, but to grow into it. Adam and Eve retreat into fasting, into tears, into dreams, into reflection. They do not seek approval. They seek truth within themselves. And when the 40th day ends, they are not transformed. They are fully themselves, not in bliss, but in maturity. Only then they come together. You understand? A union recognized by heaven needs no words. It needs the path endured, the darkness embraced, and the readiness to stand beside one another, even if exile comes again. You think birth is a beginning, but in truth, it is the continuation of pain. Every new life carries the shadow of those who came before. And the deeper the wound of the parents, the sharper the blade in the children's hands. Eve labored in agony unknown to Eden. Each contraction echoed exile. Each cry reminded her of the cost of choice. But behind pain, movement. Behind screams, breath. Cain came first. A boy whose eyes did not seek light, but measured boundaries. He did not cry. He stared at the world as if already knowing he'd have to fight for his place. Soon after came Lulu, his sister, and in her something else stirred. She did not turn from the world. She beheld it like a mystery, as if she had not arrived but returned. Her gaze was soft but not naive. She reached for her brother, but he withdrew. From the beginning, an unseen crack divided them, not hatred, but a quiet rift born before language. You feel it. These are not merely children. They are archetypes. Cain, will, drive, the hunger to assert. Lulu, acceptance, silence. The feminine memory holding what men forget. And already in that pairing lies the seed of conflict. Not because either is evil, but because love demands equality, and Cain did not understand what that meant. Later came Abel and Ali, another pair. Abel was calm, his movements like wind, his voice like a lullaby. He did not seek to lead. He did not seek at all. He simply was, as if knowing that was enough. Ahli, bright, clear. She did not try to understand, she felt. Where Lulu watched, Ahli saw. And her silence was not defense, but trust. You notice? There is no war between the brothers, but tension simmers. Cain looks at Abel and sees weakness, someone who makes no effort, who lives without striving, yet is still loved. But inside Cain, a wound, not from his parents, from the moment of birth. He is first, yet he does not feel chosen. He is strong, yet he feels no support. He is a son, but feels cast aside. You understand? This is the root of the coming pain, not envy, but the ache of not being seen, of being feared, of being asked to be someone else. Cain does not want evil. He wants to be recognized, but he does not know how to ask except through anger. You see the family, the first family, and you understand there are no perfect ones, only seekers, only those who birth children, not knowing how to protect them from what they have yet to heal in themselves. Death did not descend from above. It did not rise from hell. It was born in the chest, inside the one who was loved. It wasn't an angel who fell from heaven. A man fell into himself. And there, in the innermost chamber of the soul, where shame, fear, and unspoken pain dwell, something took root that no one could stop. Destruction. Cain did not wake one morning intending to kill. He awoke every day with a feeling you know, the sense of not being heard, of his virtue going unseen, of his efforts never being enough. When he brought the fruit of the earth to offer the Creator, he gave all he had and received no reply. Then he saw Abel, quiet, modest, nearly invisible, receive blessing. And Cain's pain grew solid, became a stone, became a voice. Did I not try? Am I not worthy? You know that voice. It is not evil. It is desperate. It speaks in you when you compare, when you cry into silence and hear no echo, and then everything shifts. Cain did not kill as a murderer. He killed as one who could no longer bear being unseen. He raised his hand, not against his brother, but against his own shadow, against what he could not accept in himself. And when Abel's body fell, earth, for the first time, became a grave. You hear the soil, once giver of food, now drinking blood. It does not weep, it absorbs. For the lineage that began in exile now enters its next phase, the fall. From this moment, descendants are born, bearing fracture. Not merely Cain's blood, but the echo of his wound. And you watch these offspring turn toward force, pleasure, and dominion. They build cities, they forge instruments, they sing songs. But their songs praise power, their creations radiate pride, their eyes reflect nothingness. They teach Seth's children to long for earth, not heaven. They seduce not with body, but with idea. You can do anything, you are the creator. And Seth's children, innocent but curious, begin to lean. They forget the light of the cave, forget the silence where the soul was born, and one day they unite with Cain's line. Thus are born the Nephilim, giants, not in height, but in the reach of ruin, beings driven not by doubt, but by hunger to dominate. Their bodies are strong, their minds sharp, but their spirit dead. Because spirit is not passed by blood, it is passed by choice, and that choice was lost. You watch a world blooming on the surface, rotting underneath, and you understand exile was pain. But the fall is forgetting. For millennia, people relied on a single version of the story, the one recorded in the book of Genesis. It shaped theology, cultural imagination, and the understanding of sin, redemption, and the order of creation. In that version, the events move quickly: creation, prohibition, disobedience, exile, and a new beginning. Humanity disobeys, and punishment follows. The narrative is linear, with sin producing immediate consequences. In the book of Adam and Eve, the rhythm is different. It does not hurry. It offers reflection rather than chronology. It doesn't present a doctrinal statement, but a process. It explores what is only briefly implied in Genesis: sorrow, silence, introspection, and the psychological aftermath of exile. The human being is portrayed not just as a violator of rules, but as a consciousness in formation. Unlike Genesis, where God is primarily a judge and lawgiver, here the Creator appears as a silent, observing presence. He does not act directly, he leaves space, not for abandonment, but for understanding. Here the human path includes not only loss, but learning. Comprehension, struggle, and choice become integral to growth, rather than deviations from it. The distinction between the two texts is not one of truth versus falsehood, but of perspective. One sets the structure, the other explores internal depth. If Genesis defines the framework, who, what, when, and why, the Lost Book explores the how one experiences loss, how one survives silence, how one chooses direction without clear guidance. The Book of Adam and Eve does not negate the canonical account, it complements it. It does not challenge God, it presents another angle, a creator who grants space not only for obedience, but for awakening. You can compare the texts by style, tone, or theological stance, but the most notable difference lies in their view of humanity. In Genesis, the human disobeys and is expelled. In this version, the human falls and begins to understand. As you finish reading, you are left not with a closed answer, but with an open inquiry. Not a final judgment, but a new consideration. Not a doctrine, but a possibility. What if the story of Adam and Eve is not just about ancient beginnings, but a description of what happens whenever someone loses direction and begins to seek it again?